Hi, I'm Calum Di Lieto, editor of HR Grapevine magazine, and today we're here at St James's Place to talk with Kerry Dryburgh, the Global VP of HR for Corporate Business Activities and Functions. Hi Kerry, thank you for speaking with us today. I understand that you are currently working on a bit of a leadership pipeline at the moment. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me, Calum. In terms of the leadership pipeline activity, we in HR, our role is really to support BP's need to develop what we call distinctive capabilities. So distinctive capabilities for us is a key part of our strategic framework, and it really is focused around three elements. So the advanced technology that we develop as an organisation. It's also about the relationships we hold as a company, but thirdly, it's about the expertise that we have in our organisation too. And for us in HR, that's about developing talent, and leadership succession is a key part of that. We're also shifting as we go through this journey, and our focus is really around shifting more from a buy of talent to a build talent model. And we want to be more selective about the people that we hire into the organisation versus how we develop those that we already have within the team. And we're doing that in three ways, really. So first of all, it's about early career talent. So by that I mean our graduate offer. We want to be distinctive in the market around a world-class graduate offer for both those individuals just finishing university, but also for early career hires. It's also about us accelerating people's development, so those that are within the organisation already and how we do that. And then ultimately it's also about the values that we hold as an organisation, so what we call values-based leadership, and how we develop that across the organisation as well. And we're doing that in a number of different ways. So first of all, we're really focused on transitional development for people. So that's providing the right leadership development opportunities for people at key stages in their career. So when, for example, they first move from an individual contributor more to a first team leader, moving into senior leadership, and then ultimately into the most senior roles in the company. And that's something we are developing right now. And then secondly, it's about how we develop those high potential people that we have in our organisation. And much of high potential development is really focused dependent upon where you sit in the company. So across the portfolio of activities that I support, we have a number of these types of initiatives. So for example, in our trading organisation, we have what we call a business insights programme, which is focused on the leadership development of our front office traders, who are quite a unique bunch of individuals, as I'm sure you can imagine. Yeah. And then similarly in our IT organisation, we have something called CIO of the Future, which is about developing the next leadership cadre for our IT organisation, an Aspire programme for more junior leaders, and similar other activities in finance. We've also got a Future Leaders programme, which actually is aimed at bringing in external high potential people to the organisation and developing them over the course of 3 or 4 years. So there's really a whole strand of activity that's going on, which really plays to the leadership succession that we need to develop.
And in terms of going right up to the beginning of the pipeline, upstream almost.
Yeah.
Getting graduates to join in the industry specifically, within energy and things like that. What can companies within that sector do to really encourage that talent to come from university and actually pursue a career in, say, energy or in the industrial sector as a whole?
Well, first and foremost, we tend to focus on hiring STEM graduates into our graduate programs. And in the upstream, we have a very distinctive, what we call Graduate Challenger program. There are other programs across the organisation as well. So our trading organisation has a very distinct trading grad program, which is world-renowned too. So we have distinct offerings, but specifically we focus largely on hiring STEM graduates. Now, the reality is that you don't often see as many people going into STEM programs as perhaps we would like coming out of school. And secondly, we want the best and the brightest. And sometimes those STEM graduates don't actually choose to take careers in those associated fields. So throughout all of this, it's important for us to make sure that we are, one, encouraging those studying those subjects to really consider energy and to consider what BP has to offer as a great opportunity for them. So it's about making sure we're on campus, making sure that undergraduates really understand what BP has that's distinctive and how much we invest in our graduates over the course of time. And then secondly, it's about how we also start to attract and encourage both school-age children and other individuals coming through university into BP and obviously more broadly the industry. And we do that through a whole range of different activities. So as an example, we have what we call the Ultimate Field Trip, which is actually a team-based initiative. So it's a competition asking graduates at university or undergrads to come up with entrepreneurial ideas to solve technological or energy-based problems. I think Oxford University won that last year. We also hold discovery days. We invite undergrads in for a whole day to experience what it's like to be at BP in various parts of the organisation. Internships, 140 interns last year. And the great thing about internships is typically we convert about 65% of our interns into graduate offers. So that's a really great pipeline for us. And we get to see people through the process of those over the course of usually 12 weeks in the summer. Sponsorships, again, we spend about $4.5 million on sponsorship on an annual basis. So we're sponsoring undergrads at university. And that's not to mention any of the projects or initiatives that we have in terms of our schools liaison. So we've been working with schools, particularly across the UK, since 1968. So we have a very established school liaison program where some of our employees go into schools and help particular students. We offer learning tools and techniques for teachers in schools. So there's a whole range of activity. And we've also, in fact, started hiring A-level students as well in our trading business. So we're looking at different types of avenues, and it's just as much as we can do to really strengthen all of those areas of the pipeline, because it takes time.
And with hiring those A-level students, do you think that there isn't a need for them to sort of have that university degree, then they still have the necessary skills, and it almost you can build them up internally without them having to sort of get the education?
Yeah, so I think in the trading environment it's different to hiring someone to be a geologist or an explorer, for example, in our upstream business. And what we really need there is a diversity of thought. We need different people with different types of ideas and concepts. And clearly they still have to have the numerical aptitude, for example. So there are key criteria that they need to have fulfilled. But having a degree per se is not necessarily something that is the be-all and end-all. It's more about their ability to see patterns, their ability to look at trends, analyse what's going on in the markets. And you can still do that through a similar degree of training. And we do train people over the course of 3 years to become traders in our organisation.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And gender diversity is another issue, especially in the industrial sector. What do you guys do there to try and kind of draw in as much, sort of young female talent as possible?
Yeah. So I'd say there are two angles to it. So first and foremost, when we're hiring grads, for example, we also target our attraction activities on certain female societies. So as an example, again, in trading, we've been focused on sports societies at key universities. So what we've seen is there's a direct correlation between people who typically are successful in focused sporting activity, whatever that sport might be, and success in a trading environment. So we have worked with Oxford and Cambridge, some of their rowing, some of their sports societies, for example, and we hold very strong relationships with them. So we're encouraging that type of activity, and we do similar things in the US, for example, as well as others. So women in economics and finance, there are many different societies at university that we can focus on, and we do have relationships with. So that happens. And then in addition, when we're looking at experienced hires, certainly, again, we form very similar types of relationships with the right bodies across the organisation. So women in engineering, women in banking and finance. We're typically sponsors and work very closely with those types of networks, as well as running our own types of networking events as well. So this year in March, for example, in International Women's Day, we sponsored a number of things. So we hired the Mandarin Oriental room. We had high tea for undergrads, female undergrads. We had an International Women's Day dinner, which a number of our senior female leaders presented at, and that was 40-odd experienced people in the industry coming to see what it's like to work at BP. So there's a whole range of stuff that goes on. And then last but not least, when you join the company, we have a number of women's networks inside the organisation that support females and provide opportunity to network, receive mentorship, those types of things, so that we can strengthen our pipeline going forward.
Obviously, with all the attraction that you're trying to do, one of the main requirements of that is a strong employer brand.
Yeah.
So what's BP doing to boost their employer brand or strengthen it to attract the right people?
So we've spent quite a lot of time thinking about what we call our employer value proposition in the marketplace, recognising that that's really critical, not just to attract new employees, but also I think it's important for us to hold that so the people who work for us really have clarity around what we stand for. And we've been doing a huge amount of work in that space over the course of the last year and 18 months. And one of the aspects of that I think is really critical is good people to do business with. That's something that is really important for us as a company, and I think it's one of the pillars of our employer value proposition that we hold quite close. How we're talking about that in the market is in a couple of ways, really. So first, we actually advertise, for want of a better word, our employer brand through talking about employee experiences. So most recently we launched a campaign called Inside Out, which is exactly that, talking various people from the organisation, talking about their experiences, whether that's in our North Sea exploration activity, or indeed we had a female trader, for example, and it's very much about why they work at BP, what's important for them working at BP, the opportunities they get, and how it differentiates from perhaps other organisations in our marketplace. So that's one way, but we're also embedding it really strongly in our processes. So when we go to market, for example, in terms of recruitment, if we're using third-party agencies, then they are absolutely briefed on our value proposition, and they use that to sell the BP opportunity to our candidates. Similarly, if we're hiring directly, our recruitment function does the same. So it's really something that is embedded throughout everything we do, but we recognise it's really valuable. And certainly we've seen some progress. So just recently we were ranked as the 20th most attractive company in LinkedIn's US-based survey. So we'd like to think it's starting to have an impact.
Yeah. One of the things that ties in with employer brand is obviously your core values. I understand that you have 5.
That's correct, yeah.
Talk us a bit through them.
Okay, so you're right. We have 5 values. And really they sit within the context of what we do as a company and what we stand for, and also how we operate. And those values are safety, excellence, courage, respect, and one team. And again, the way that we've gone about embedding those in the organisation is really through ensuring that they're embedded in all of the processes that we have and the documentation we have in the company. So if you look at our performance management process, absolutely everybody's measured on how they stand up against those values and the 25 behaviours that sit underneath. So there's a lot more detail than those 5 words that I've just used. And similarly, really I think, but most importantly, they are the compass, I would call it, that guides the way that people make decisions. And over the course of the last 4 years, that's the way that we've really embedded it in people's thoughts and thinking. It's if I've got a decision to make and I'm not sure how to do it, how do I use those values and behaviours to guide me through that process?
Corporate social responsibility is another area that ties in with your values and also your employer brand. How important is that to you?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're an oil and gas company, so it's very important, but in terms of the people agenda.
Of course, I think CSR, as we would call it, is really important, and it's something that is fundamental in our sector, amongst others. But what I would say is we don't do CSR as a standalone activity. We, as I said, have the 5 values and behaviours, and one of those 25 behaviours is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So for us, it's not something specific, it's just something that is absolutely ingrained in everything we do on a day-to-day basis. That's not to say, of course, that we don't spend time in the community, and we actively do encourage community support, whether that be through supporting schools, whether it be supporting local businesses or social groups, and that goes on right across the organisation. It's something we really value as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for taking the time and speaking with us, and good luck in the future.
Thanks very much.